You're listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe of Torch in Houston, Texas. This is the Parsha Review Podcast.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's so wonderful to be here. Parsha Review Podcast. So this week's Parsha is Parshas Miketz. Mikeitz always coincides with Shabbos Chanukah. Whenever Shabbos Chanukah happens, Parshas Miketz is read. And we're going to try to find today a connection, a very strong connection as to why this is the case. Let's begin with this week's Parsha, where we talk about Pharaoh. Pharaoh has a dream. And what is that dream? That dream is Vayhi Miketz Shnosayim Yomim veParo Cholem v'hine Omed al Yaor. It's after 2 years that Joseph was in the prison, and Pharaoh was dreaming, and he beheld that he was standing over the river. V'hine mina Yaor olos sheva paros yafos mare ubrios basar. He sees coming from the river 7 cows, beautiful of appearance, robust of flesh, vatir enaba'achu, and they were grazing in the marshland. V'hine sheva paros acheros olos achareim, and then 7 cows that came behind them, mina yor, from the river, ra'os mare, they were ugly in appearance, v'dakos basar, and they were gaunt in flesh, v'tamodna eitzel haparos al sfasi yor, and they stood next to the cows on the bank of the river, v'tochalna, and they ate haparos haros hamaros ros hamare, v'dakos habasar et sheva paros yifos mare v'brios v'yikatz paro. So what happens? The 7 weak, frail, gaunt cows eat the 7 healthy ones. And Paro wakes up. He's like in a panic. Vayishan, he goes back to sleep. Vayachalom shenis, and he has another dream. What was the second dream that Pharaoh has? V'hine sheva shibolim, there were 7 ears of grain. Olos bekone echad, were sprouting up on a single stalk. Brios v'tovos, they were healthy and they were good. V'hine sheva shibolos dakos, and they were 7 very thin ears of grain. Ushdufos kadim, and scorched by the east wind. Tzomchos achareim, that were growing after them. Vativlano, and they swallowed up hashibolos adakos, the thin ones swallowed up the sheva shibolos habrios, the healthy ears. V'hamaleos, and those that were filled, they eat them up. V'yikatz Paro v'hine chalom, and Paro awakens, and he says, "Oh, behold, it was a dream." V'hi baboker, and it was in the morning. V'tipoem rucho, and his spirit was very agitated. Vayishlach vayikro es kol chartumei Mitzrayim, and he calls for all of the necromancers, for all of the dream interpreters. Ves kol chachomeo, and all of the wise men. Vayisaper Paro lehem es chalamo, and he tells them his dreams. Ve'ein poser oso leFaro, and there's nobody who can decipher the meaning of these dreams. Everybody tries to figure it out. Nobody comes up with anything that is pleasing to Pharaoh. Okay, what happens? Eventually, they call Joseph, one of the butler. The butler says, "Oh! When I was in prison, there was a nice Jewish boy there, and he interpreted my dream accurately. Me and the baker, one of us was saved. The butler was saved, right? The butler was saved, or the baker was saved. Remember which one? The baker was saved. The baker was killed. The butler was saved, and it was accurate exactly the way Joseph interpreted it. So he says, maybe we call him from the prison. He's a nice Jewish boy. So they call him from the prison, and indeed Joseph gives the interpretation, and Pharaoh then places him as the viceroy of his empire, and the second in command is this nice little Jewish boy. Can I ask a question? Of course we ask questions, right? That's what the Torah is about. You ask questions. What is such a big deal about this dream that the Torah commits so much ink to it? There's so much dedicated to explaining these dreams. It's repeated multiple times Because he repeats it to Joseph and he repeats it to his... What's going on over here? It's just a dream. Has anybody here had a dream? Do you make a big deal about it? I'm sure that Pharaoh had many a dream in his lifetime. Comes this dream and he can't sleep. He comes this dream and now he's like all bent out of shape. Oh, I got to find a solution to this. I got to get an answer. I got to figure this out. What is bothering Pharaoh so much that he here says, oh, I need to get an interpretation. He's not pleased until he gets a good interpretation for the dream. You'd think it's just a dream. If it's just a dream, leave it alone. Our sages tell us something really remarkable to learn from this. What was bothering Pharaoh is that in his whole life, he always saw that the many overcame the few, the strong overcame the weak, the beautiful always overcame the ugly. Who got the job? The better looking person. Who got the raise? The person who was stronger. Who was the one who got the promotion? Every single thing was always given to the more powerful. And here it was all turned over on its head. And he was afraid also. He was afraid, if this is true in a dream, perhaps me being the strongest king in the world, I'll be taken away as well. To him, the entire image of what goes on in the world was seen in this dream. It doesn't make sense that suddenly it's going to be the opposite. That the weak are the one who prosper. That the few are the one who succeed. And this bothered Pharaoh. Pharaoh was not comfortable with this. And this he needed to interpret. Our sages tell us it's very, very important for this message to be in our Torah. Because this is the story of the Jewish people. This is the story. The Jewish people are always the few. The Jewish people are always the weak. The Jewish people are always the one who are persecuted. I have over here printed out, because in the past I've talked about it just as that document. I have it here, 9 pages. 9 pages. For the last 2,000 years, there hasn't been 10 years without an attack on a Bondi Beach type on a Jewish people. There hasn't been 10 years without an October 7th. There hasn't been 10 years without a bombing in Argentina of the JCC. There hasn't been 10 years without a persecution, an expulsion, a forced conversion, a stake burning, Jewish enslavement, Judaism outlawed, Jews burned alive in Rome, massacre in Hungary, massacre in northern France and Germany. This is back in year 1096. You think it was only Germany in 1939? Oh, 1140, massacres in Germany. Blood libel in England. Jews burned alive in Rhine Valley. Massacres in Würzburg. In Germany, Jews burned alive in 1147. Massacres all over France. Expulsion in France. Property confiscation in England, mob attacks in London and York, Jews burned alive in Norfolk. This is all in England. In France, Jews burned alive. You go on and on and on and on. Public hangings in England in 1255. You didn't even know about this, right? 100,000 Jews slaughtered in Franconia, in Bavaria, in Austria, in year 1298. We're always the few. We're always the small. We're always the weak. But I ask you, what was the miracle of Chanukah? We say this most beautiful prayer every single Amidah throughout the 8 days of Chanukah. We say this special prayer in the Birkat HaMazon and the grace after meals as well throughout the entire Chanukah. And we say, Bimei Matisyo ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol, in the days of Matisyo, the son of Yochanan, the high priest. Talks about the Chashmonaim, Uvonov, Kisham Malchus Yavan, or Shal Amchi Yisrael. What did they want? What did they want? What did the Greek kingdom want? They wanted the Jewish people to forget your Torah, and they wanted to force them to stray from the laws that you willed, Hashem. That's what they wanted, to remove us. No Judaism, no Shabbos, no Tefillin, no bris. Outlawed. But you in your great mercy, you stood up for them when they were facing challenges. Ravtas rivam, you fought their fights, their battles. Dantas dinam, you judged their claim. Nakamtas nikwasam, you avenged their wrong. Masarta giborim biyad chalashim. Listen to this. You delivered the strong into the hands of the weak. Virabim biyad me'atim, and the many into the hands of the few. Utmeim biyad tehorim, and the impure into the hands of the pure. Urishayim biyad tzadikim, and the wicked into the hands of the righteous. Vizidim biyadoske sorosecho, and the malicious into the hand of the diligent students of your Torah. And then it continues. What our sages are telling us, and this is no coincidence, that Parshas Miketz always coincides with Chanukah. Because exactly what we see here in this week's Parsha, exactly what we see going on in Pharaoh's dream, that he's in such turmoil. What in the world is going on here? Why are the weak cows eating up the strong cows? That's not the way it works in our world. Why are the weak ears of grain eating and devouring the strong ears of grain? These are not the rules of nature. The rules of nature are the strong overcome the weak, the many overcome the few. That's the way it works. And if we turn our attention for a moment at the last 77 years of the state of Israel, Israel's a very tiny state. Perhaps the size of New Jersey, at best. Surrounded by enemies all around. If you look at all the enemy territory, it's more than the entire United States against a little New Jersey. Imagine that. And what happens? Rabim biyad ma'atim. The many are taken by the few. V'giborim biyad chalashim. And those who are mighty taken by the weak. What we need to open our eyes and see are the miracles that Hashem is performing for us. Not only then, like we say the second blessing when we light the menorah. Bayamim ahem, in those days. Bazman hazeh, in these days too. It's happening now in front of our eyes. We are able to see unbelievable revelations. We are able to see the hand of Hashem protecting us. Where we have the mighty Iranian Revolutionary Guard throwing hundreds of missiles at Israel. Ballistic missiles. When you have Hezbollah, when you have Syria, not a friend of Israel, Jordan, not either a friend of Israel. They're pragmatic peace people. They just want, we just don't want war. So just like we prefer having peace, even though we don't like you. Egypt is no friend either. And you look at all the other countries, you have Lebanon, you have Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Yemen. Not a lot of friendly neighbors there. And look at Israel, in all of its pride and glory, continues to flourish. Continues to produce the greatest wine in the world. It's an amazing vision for us to see with our own eyes. How the dream of Pharaoh is the reality of the Jewish existence. The dream of Pharaoh, the disturbing dream of Pharaoh, is disturbing for all world leaders. It's disturbing to them because this is not the way nature works. So what do we see from this? That Jews don't follow the laws of nature. It doesn't apply. It applies to everyone else. It doesn't apply to us. And we see this throughout our history. We see throughout our history how the Jewish people have always thrived after a persecution. The Jewish people lived near water. There were merchants that were able to carry their goods in their pocket. Oh, is that an expulsion coming? Are those, do we hear chariots? Do we hear horses? Do we hear, let's get out of here. They get on their boat and go to the next place. You look at where the Jewish people live. They never lived inland. It's a very odd thing that in the United States, Jews do live inland. Texas is not inland. Texas is right next to Galveston. If you look up the Galveston plan, you'll see. It was a way for Jews to get in here. And this was 100 years ago, a very, very flourishing Shomer Shabbos Jewish community. You have in the Galveston Cemetery, you have dozens of great rabbis that are buried there that were students of the Chafetz Chaim. We have to understand that we are here on a mission. We're here to accomplish. We're not here to become politicians. We're not here to fight physical wars. We're here to fight spiritual wars. We're here to overcome our Yetzer Hara. We're here to strengthen our relationship with God. That is the purpose of it all. What's the bottom line? And we say this in the end of that prayer. We say, and for your people, you worked a great victory and salvation as this very day. And thereafter, what happened as a result? Your children came to the Holy of Holies of your house, cleansed your temple, purified the site of your holiness, and kindled lights in the courtyard of your sanctuary. Don't you think that after all of this, let's keep a low profile, keep the menorah off, turn the lights off? No. We don't hide our menorah. We don't hide our chai necklaces and our Magen David. We don't hide it. You light it bright for the world to see. Because we're not here to fight others. We're here to shine light to the world. That's our job. Our job is to uplift. Our job is to uplift the experience for the entire world. We are the chosen nation. You know why? Because we chose God. God offered the Torah to all the nations. And we were the only ones to accept. So don't be angry at us that we have the Torah. The nations of the world are jealous. We don't stick it in their face. We have to be a good example. That's our responsibility. And then what does it say? And as a result of this, they established these 8 days of Chanukah to express thanks and praise to your great name. This is our job. This is our responsibility. Give thanks. All these days are lahodos or lahalel, to give praise and to thank Hashem every day, all day. The special time to give this praise and thanks is Chanukah. Chanukah, just say thank you. All day, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for the light. Thank you for the success. But thank you for the challenge and thank you for the dark. Because if you don't have that, you don't appreciate that. If you don't have the challenge, you don't feel the sweetness of the success. If you don't have the darkness, you don't feel the joy of the light. My dear friends, the greatest light of all is Shabbos. I just want to share a short thing as a side note. It's a beautiful halacha. The halacha says that what if a person only has enough money for either Shabbos light, candles, or for menorah light. Which one takes precedence? You only have money for one. Which do you do? The halacha says Shabbos candles comes first. Why? Because Shabbos candles is shalom bayis, is for peace in the home. Peace in the home takes precedence over everything. The halacha says that what if your wife is not home? She's shopping for Hanukkah gifts. But it's late. It's late. We have to light the menorah. What do we do? You wait for your wife. Why do you wait for your wife? Shalom bayis comes first. Peace in the home comes first. It's a constant theme that we see. It's such a beautiful halacha. Peace in the home comes first. And it's not related at all to what we talked about. Maybe we can connect it. We probably can connect it. You can connect everything in Torah. My dear friends, have a magnificent Shabbos.
You've been listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe on a podcast produced by Torch, the Torah Outreach Resource Center of Houston. Please help sponsor an episode so we can continue to produce more quality Jewish content for our listeners around the globe. Please visit torchweb.org to donate and partner with us on this incredible endeavor.